Hello everyone and welcome to another Fallout 76 video. It's been a while since I made one of these. I've been super busy moving into my new house and researching mods for my next Fallout 4 Let's Play, but a couple new interviews with Todd Howard were just released and I thought I should talk about what they say. Some new information was revealed and others were confirmed in more detail. Both of the articles are foreign, one German and one Italian, and I'll leave a link below to a translated version of the German one, but I don't have a translated version of the Italian one. However, if you'd like to, I'll leave a link in the original article and you can just use Google Translate on it if you want to read it for yourself. I won't be covering either article in its entirety, just some main points, so you might want to check them out for yourself. Anyway, let's get to it. I'm going to be addressing each point in the order they were presented in the articles. So, for those of you who were worried that Bethesda is now going to be making all their games as multiplayers, you can rest easy. Todd Howard confirmed Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6 will be single-player games. Whether or not they develop some sort of social aspect for them, that remains to be seen. But they will remain, at their core, single-player games. And I always figured that this would be true, since this is what Bethesda does best. They're not just going to turn around and completely change the way they do things. They'll do experiments, yes, but I think their core games will always be single-player, with maybe some social options in the future if the fans really ask for something like that. Fallout 76 will not feature crossplay, unfortunately, which I had a feeling would be true. This is why I'm going to be buying it on more than one platform so I can play with more of my subscribers. For those of you who don't know what crossplay is, that is where if you play on PS4, for instance, you can also play with people online who play on Xbox or PC, or any combination of consoles or platforms like that. So you will not be able to do that in Fallout 76. Todd's main comments about this is that Sony is not being as helpful as they'd like. That's all he had to say about it. And that's pretty much on par with Sony and how they deal with things like that. However, Todd said that he would like to do crossplay. He thinks it's very important, and it seems like they aren't ruling it out for the future, but he didn't give any details about it. He just said, we'll wait and see. Every aspect of the game will be improved over Fallout 4. From the graphics to how the controls work, the gunplay, enemy AI, overlapping quests. The game uses a new renderer, a new lighting system, and a new system for the landscape generation. They improved the hit detection for Fallout 76. It feels much better, but you won't notice unless you go back to Fallout 4 and compare those two games. There are a lot of things they redid for Fallout 76, but they don't know if people will notice. So probably a lot of little things that add up to just being an overall better experience. They plan on updating the game on a monthly basis based on player feedback. Now, we've already been told that the game would have regular updates, but it hadn't been said how regular those would be, so it sounds like they will be monthly. And on a side note, in a separate article, Pete Hines said that the updates would include large and small DLC, including new stories and quests for years to come. So if someone were to stop playing Fallout 76 for a year or whatever, and they came back to it later, it would be a very different game from what they remember. So we won't be getting bored with this game for a long time. Now, Todd Howard elaborated a bit on the microtransactions, which will be supporting these regular updates. He said they went into 76 with two goals in mind. First, they want to offer extra content, and on the other hand, they don't want to separate the player base. For example, they don't want to release a DLC that some players have and some don't. Since if they charge for the DLC, then some people will be able to afford all of them, and some will only afford some of them, or maybe none of them. But they want everybody to have all the DLCs. So how do they offer DLC for free? They have an in-game store with cosmetics, and they're currently experimenting with other things too. But the main goal is to make all players happy and to never have pay to win. And you can also earn the items by playing the game a lot. So you don't have to purchase them if you don't want to. I've seen this emphasized in many interviews. It seems they are very committed to making sure everyone has a fair and fun experience and that everyone has access to the same content no matter what. He also said that they are a big enough company and that their games are famous enough that they don't need to use overbearing methods in regards to microtransactions. Radiant quests will return, and also handcrafted ones. Fallout 76 has a story, as well as Radiant quests. Todd confirmed again that quests will be handed out by holotapes, terminals, notes, robots, and events. And he said other ways too, but he didn't really elaborate on what those other ways are. But I speculate that it could be via radio stations, like in Fallout 4, the kind with the little side quests that are started by a radio signal from some pre-war thing that you follow to a certain area where something happened, you know? This is probably very likely. It's also possible that there will be a radio station that plays music with a DJ, like in other Fallout games, and that the DJ, probably a robot, can give you quests, either through the radio or in person. I'm not sure how radio stations will work in the game. Since there are no human NPCs, it would have to be either automated or a robot running it. And yes, there will be at least 2 radio stations in the game. In an interview on Twitch with Pete Hines, the interviewer said that one of her favorite parts of Fallout is the music and the radio stations, and she asked if there would be any radio stations in 76. And this was Pete Hines' response.
Is this going to have a radio station we can listen to? Is that a I can't talk about this face? Oh, okay.
We'll see. All right, fair enough.
I love the soundtrack so much.
It's definitely an iconic part.
Yes.
Oh my God, so amazing.
So if there weren't actual radio stations in the game, he probably would have just said no instead of being evasive like that. But it's even more confirmed by the no-clip documentary. There is this super quick shot of a Pip-Boy screen, and on that screen are 2 radio stations, Appalachia Radio and Peacetime Radio. Now, we don't know what kinds of radio stations those are, but it's a good bet they're music stations, and Fallout has always been really big on their music and setting the tone of the game with the music. The traditional music of the Appalachian Mountains is mainly country and bluegrass, made popular in the 30s and 40s, and later on the folk music of the 60s and 70s, which is what the song that they play in the trailer is. It's folk music. And West Virginia especially has a lot of folk music. So I'm thinking that this is the kind of music, or at least some of it, that they would play on Appalachia Radio. I'm not sure what they'd play on Peacetime Radio. Another YouTuber, King Fan Man, suggested that peacetime might mean something else than it does in our universe. In our universe, it would be post-World War II and big band music, stuff like that, which, you know, they have played a lot of in Fallout games. But in Fallout, peacetime might mean something completely different. So that is left up to speculation, and a lot more than I would like to devote my time to in this video. But what do you guys think? How do you think radio stations will be handled in the game? Mr. Dovahkiin hopes that we can build our own radio stations and play music that we find throughout the world. That would be cool too. Anyway, moving on from the realm of speculation, let's get back to the article. When asked if other players can assign you missions, Todd answered with "not exactly." When asked to be more specific, he said, "Not now, we'll talk about it later." So that makes me think that there is some sort of way that other players can give you, maybe not quests per se, but perhaps give you jobs or something? I don't know. But if there wasn't any such thing in the game, he would have just said no rather than being evasive like that. So I'm curious to find out what this might mean. What do you guys think? Moving on to PvP and griefing, the ever-present concern. When the interviewer asked, how will you encourage players to cooperate instead of shooting each other on sight, Todd said he doesn't want to force people into play styles. He wants systems that reward certain behavior. But he can't really say what they are because they're always changing as they test things. But he said that if you stop playing the game because another player is acting like a jerk, then they have encouraged the wrong things and things need to be tweaked. Currently, it is possible to murder a player who doesn't want to engage in combat, but that it is very hard to do. But if someone does do it, he gets a status as being wanted and can't do a lot of the things that other players can do. All the other players can now see him, and he gets a big bounty on his head. He becomes some sort of epic enemy that every other player can go after. And as of right now, a player becomes wanted and everyone can see him. Everyone will gang up on him. How do you get to a wanted level? They're still messing with it, so they can't really say, and they don't want to put the brakes on too hard right now since they're still testing it. But if the system is becoming too problematic for players, they will dial back and make gaining a wanted level harder. Now, when he said that now other players can see the wanted person, I wonder what he means, since it's already been confirmed that you can see all players on the map, regardless of their status. But that when you go into sneak mode, you'll not show up on the map anymore. So you can hide from other players if you're in sneak mode. So I wonder if he means that players with wanted levels will still be seen even if they're in sneak mode. But that would be just one of the things that wanted players won't be able to do, because he mentioned there are several things. Perhaps they won't be able to trade with other players, or maybe they won't be allowed in hub areas. I don't know. It's all speculation, but it's curious. When asked how they would keep spawn killers at bay, or prevent groups of people camping outside the vault to prevent players from coming out, Todd said there are several tricks they're implementing to prevent players from doing exactly those things. For example, at the moment, you can't kill another player until he reaches level 5. Maybe they will change that rule, but they are very aware of the risks, and it doesn't appeal to them either. But they are not afraid to try new things to see what works and what doesn't. That is why the beta is so important. Player feedback will be extremely valuable. So you won't be able to be killed by another player until you reach level 5. So you won't have to worry about walking out of the vault at level 1 and running into someone who was just waiting there for you and kills you on the spot. You don't have to worry about that. Of course, by level 5, you'll still be very weak, but by then you probably have at least some basic armor and weapons, and you have at least a pretty good knowledge of how the game works and how the controls work and all that. So by level 5, you should be able to defend yourself if you have to. And of course he said that it could change, so maybe the beta players might think that level 5 isn't high enough or whatever, and they'll change it down the line depending on what player feedback is. It seems like a lot of stuff isn't set in stone, and this is why they aren't telling us a lot of things yet, because they really can't answer a lot of people's questions. All they can say is, at the moment it's like this, but it might change. And I personally think that's really cool. It sounds like player feedback is very important to them. They've mentioned it in so many articles already. They really care about what players think, what players want. They want it to be a great experience for the majority, and if it's not, they'll change it until it is. This is very encouraging to me. For the first time, the player really does have a voice about what happens with game mechanics in a Bethesda game. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out and just how much of a voice we'll have. Anyway, moving on. All quests can be played solo or as a team. So you don't have to team up in order to do certain quests if you don't want to. They aren't going to force you into teaming up to finish the game. A lot of people were concerned that they would make it impossible to do certain quests on your own, forcing you to team up even if you don't want to. Obviously, it would be easier if you had help, just like Fallout 4 is easier if you have companions with you. But you can totally play the whole game without companions, and you can play the whole Fallout 76 without friends helping you too. So there will be no forced PvP situations. There will be no handmade quests that force you to team up with or fight other players. That kind of interaction is completely up to the players. There will be public events that you can join if you want to, but they are purely opt-in side activities. This is really good to hear. This is what they mean when they say that you can play the game solo. They don't mean that you're in the world by yourself, but that you can play the game by yourself from start to finish if you want to, without the need to interact with others if you'd rather not. So that's cool for all you single player nerds out there. I have a feeling I will never be playing this game by myself because my subscribers will see that I'm on and you guys will be all over me all the time. I'm wondering if I ever will be able to play Fallout 76 on my own. We'll see. Hopefully there's a way I can disguise myself sometimes just to have some peace and quiet. Anyway, there is a trading system based on bottle caps that's part of the economy run by players, as we've been told already, but he just confirmed it again. You can play as a merchant if you want to. You can place a robot in your camp to sell your stuff, or you can choose to play the role of a merchant yourself. So, if you're one of those players who don't really want to interact with others, but you still want to sell your stuff, you can just make your robot do it for you and collect the reward without interacting with other players. Also, you can drop items for other players to pick up if you just want to give it to them for free. You can trade and sell any item in the game that isn't a quest item. So, junk, weapons and armor, valuable loot, items you've crafted, and crafting materials. I wonder how they'll handle leveled weapons and armor, though. Will you be able to fully equip a level 1 player with level 20 gear just by dropping it for them? Or will there be some restrictions in that regard? In other online survival games like Ark, for instance, a level 80 character can give level 1 players full sets of level 80 gear. And you can equip it too. However, in games like Elder Scrolls Online, you can't trade high-level gear or to low-level players, and low-level players can't equip high-level gear. So it could go either way. And maybe they might even group low-level players together on servers and high-level players together on servers so that you're not forced to interact with really players who are really higher level than you. So that could also be how they get around that. Anyway, what do you guys think? It's also still confusing to me how shops will work, though, since anything you build will disappear when you log off. So how will you sell things except when you're online if your robot that you set up just goes away when you log off? I still don't understand how that will work. It doesn't seem like you'd get much business if you can only sell stuff when you're online. I'll be very curious to see how that works. You will have your own stash that only you can access. Now, I'm not sure what he means by stash. Does he mean that any container that you craft is yours alone to access? Or does he mean that you'll have your own cloud storage chest or whatever that is completely inaccessible to other players, and that other containers that you build can be broken into? Hard to tell. But at least we do have a safe place to store our valuable stuff and not have to worry about it getting stolen. And of course, your own personal inventory is safe as well, since it's been confirmed elsewhere that other players will not be able to loot your dead body. When asked why they didn't call it Fallout Online like they did with Elder Scrolls Online, Todd said that he prefers Fallout 76. Obviously it refers to the Vault, and obviously it's not Fallout 5. He likes the identity it transmits. It's a name that remains in your head. It's a very simple way of saying that this is another type of Fallout. But he can also joke about it. He said, "We probably will not do a multiplayer episode for the next 70 chapters, so it's worth a good jump forward and consider this the 76th Fallout." So, was he really only joking, or is he saying that there really will not be another online Fallout game that far into the future? That is, of course, up for speculation, and he probably doesn't even know for sure. I mean, how can you possibly predict that? But and he may have just been joking, like he said, but there you go. Todd confirmed that one of their long-term plans is to have servers where you can play on your own, in your own world, by yourself, or where you can invite only your friends, where you can apply mods and change the rules at your discretion. But they are still working on that, and it won't be possible at launch. I'm curious what he means by change the rules. In other online survival games, like Ark for instance, if you have a private server, you can change tons of game values, mechanics, and whatnot. Like you can change the length of the day and night, you can change the damages of player and enemies, you can change whether or not items degrade, and stuff like that, all kinds of things. So that might be what he's talking about, that in addition to mods, they might in the future allow players to change things about their game in private servers. And that would be super cool if they did that, because then you could pretty much just customize your game how you see fit. That's really fun. In regards to camps, Todd gave a bit of new information and confirmed again that when you go offline, your camp will disappear, and then it will reappear when you come back online. He said that other players can partially damage your settlements, but not completely destroy them, and they're very easy and cheap to repair. Now, the actual reason they made them partially destructible is because it's currently possible to confine other players inside your camps. Like, you can take them prisoners somehow. And if camps can't be destructible, then people would be able to confine you indefinitely, and they don't want that. So, I guess even if you're taken prisoner, you can eventually escape by destroying your prison somehow. But their intent of making camps destructible was for this reason, and not so the players could annoy you by attacking and destroying your camps. Only they will probably try that anyways. But I'm not sure how I feel about this. While I'm glad that they do make it possible to escape captivity, I'm not sure why they allow taking prisoners in the first place. I mean, what's it for? Yeah. Now, Ark, for instance, gives you the ability to capture other players in cages, but they've made it very hard, if not impossible, to get out of these cages, since you can't destroy them from within, and they disable the ability to commit suicide by damaging yourself in the cage so that you can respawn somewhere else. So you can be held captive pretty much indefinitely, which prevents you from playing the game, and you're forced to abandon that character. So it's good that Bethesda is preventing this kind of thing from happening by allowing you to damage and destroy parts of a camp in order to escape captivity. But I still don't really like the idea. What do you guys think about it? I can see it as a way to imprison wanted players, and maybe that's all it can be used for. But if not, then I can see it being abused as well. They'll probably tell us more about this in the near future as other interviewers start asking for more details about it. Now that it's, the information's out there, they'll probably want clarification. Anyway, in the same vein of camps, in response to a question about what happens if someone builds their camp right in the same place as yours, Todd said that it is theoretically possible for that to happen. Theoretically. And in such a case, you can, of course, move to a different location, like we've already heard. But he also said that you can start damaging the other person's camp until you persuade the other player to move theirs. So that's really different. That's the new information there. I don't know how I feel about that. So you can basically just go up to anyone's camp and just slash at it and blow it up constantly until they get fed up enough to move. Of course, I guess you can put up defenses against that kind of thing, but still, that's a whole new level of griefing right there. But he did say that it's very, very rare that another player will put their camp exactly where yours is. The world is so huge, and there are so few players in it, that the chances are pretty slim that it will happen. Again, he said that it's theoretically possible that it could happen. So maybe we really don't have to worry about it that much. What do you guys think? There will be fast travel in the game after all, which I thought there might be, since a lot of online games have fast travel. When asked if there will be fast travel, Todd just gave a flat yes, with no explanation. So he didn't explain how fast travel will work. Whether it will be just like in regular Fallout games where you can fast travel from anywhere to pretty much anywhere, or if there will be fast travel points like signposts or way shrines or something. Or maybe you can fast travel from anywhere to certain places on the map that you've discovered, like how it is right now in Fallout. Now, if that last one is the case, then you could theoretically use fast travel as a way to escape griefers. If somebody's bothering you, can just fast travel to a different location. So that's interesting. There will not be vehicles or mounts. When asked if there would be, he said no. It's exactly like Fallout. I'm kind of disappointed by this, especially considering how huge the world is. It would have been fun to ride a motorcycle or something, or at least ride some sort of animal. I mean, you'd think there would be horses, right? Oh well. Maybe mods can add them later, probably. There will be a day and night cycle and variable weathers, just like in other Fallout games. The weather and day-night cycle will be synchronized for all players in your general area, but not throughout the entire map. So players on the other side of the map can experience different weathers from you. You can even see this happening in the game footage, where it's sunny where the camera is, But far in the distance, you can see a thunderstorm. And if anyone is down there, they are probably getting wet. So I think that is kind of cool. At the end, Todd talked a little bit about the beta and said that the beta will likely be a full release of the game. He said it's not a for sure thing yet, but they would rather not reset the servers after the official launch, and they hope that the beta is the full game. So they want the beta testers to be able to keep their characters and worlds and whatnot once the game is in official release, which is cool. Usually betas are only part of the game, and you have a set time to play it, and then you have to buy the official release to play beyond that. So it's cool that they want you to be able to preserve your experience into the official release. Anyway, guys, that is it. That is all the main things talked about in the 2 articles. There was some other stuff having to do with Starfield and Elder Scrolls Legends and Elder Scrolls 6 that I don't want to cover here. So if you want to read the articles for yourselves, I left links in the description below. Also below, you can find links to my social media if you'd like to keep up with what's going on with me behind the scenes. And if you like my content and want to support my channel, I've also left links to my Patreon page and my Ko-fi page. Ko-fi is a site where you can basically tip me a few bucks as a way to say thank you. Basically buying me a coffee, even though it's not a real coffee, it's a virtual coffee. You can buy me one or several, however many you want. No commitment, no perks, just a simple tip. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Be sure to subscribe for more Fallout 76 content in the future. And until then, remember to play safe, play nice, and have fun. Bye, guys.